love, I'm Crystal, your ease mentor and big sis. Welcome to the Me For Us channel. I created the Me For Us channel with the intention of exploring how these self-care practices that we've been cultivating for years can now be bridged over to benefit our communities. Which practices can benefit the whole? How have these self-care practices fortified you? How does that fortification and knowing how to care for yourself then enable you to innovate creatively when it comes to solutions in your community? And how has self-care accidentally isolated us? And how do we emerge back into community? Which in my opinion is when we're at our very best. These are the questions that will guide our conversations together. Being the seeker and counterculture Aquarian that I am, my curiosity is endless as to the layers and levels and places that these questions can take us, including emotionally. How do we grow past our learned limits when it comes to emotions into a more real-time riding of the waves emotionally? Because there's always some kind of gem inside them. Spiritually, if everything is spiritual, are we actually feeling that in the everyday mundane moments of our lives? Mentally, how do we align our incredibly powerful minds to help direct us towards what else is possible for us, our lives, our communities, and the greater human collective? Communally, are we letting support and care in? And how does that reverberate out into how you reciprocally invest in your people and your community? Energetically, how do we tend to our energetic bodies? Are we willing to explore how much easier things can flow in our lives if we let our energy do some of the work? And how can we level up our energetic practices in order to help this overall transformation happening? And lastly, but definitely not least, physically, how do we tend to our bodies? Do we care, nurture, and love on them for all that they do for us? Back in the summer of 2020, my parents very unexpectedly told us that they were moving cross country. I think, like a lot of people, the pandemic really gave some perspective on what was most important to us. And I think they just got really clear that it was finally time to move closer to their grandkids. One day, I was helping my dad empty out the garage to figure out what they were going to keep and what they were going to sell, all that good stuff. There was this moment where my dad, kind of mid-process, just looked around and he had this heaviness that came over him. He looked around and he said, "All I see are projects that I never did. I wanted to, but I just couldn't figure out the time to do it. And now I hold on to all of these things just in case, but now they're just all these reminders of things that I didn't do." I realized in that moment that not only did my dad prioritize and give himself a chance to do these more creative, enjoyable, pleasure-filled projects, but he then kept them around just in case, but they ended up being kind of weaponized against him to remind him of all he didn't accomplish and he didn't let himself do. Now, this is a very human moment and relatable, I think, but there is something happening in that moment for me. And I promised myself that I would break through this generational pattern of not letting ourselves do the creative thing we want to do, because I wanted to know what I could do, who I could be creatively by letting myself do and complete these things. It's been 5 years since that happened, and I've been searching and craving for a creative outlet for my expression and storytelling for some time now. This is me busting through that. And as I said, busting through, my camera went flying. We're off and running, people. I'm getting out of my own way and opening my heart to you. My hope is that this space gets to be that for me, but it also gets to be a living, breathing reminder for you to do the same. I want it to be an encouragement, inspiration, but also another pathway opening to see what else is possible for how we spend our days, what we're here to create, and another version of this world that we can co-create together to see what else is possible. I am so very grateful that you're here. You matter. If you are still walking this planet, I have no doubt in me that there are reasons, many, many reasons for why that is so. It's time to start owning that. It's time to take up space and be a bit more willing to put ourselves out there for each other. The hyper-capitalist, individualist, lone wolf era is over, and a rich, new, nurturing era is here. Until next time.